Hi, everyone. Welcome to our November Be There event. Today we have Jonathan McCash, Executive Vice President of Wholesale Sales, Andrew Pullman, Chief Marketing Officer, and our special guest, Founder and CEO of Total Expert, Joe Welu. I'm Ashley Dennison, Sales Support Manager here at Stearns Lending. We've got a really exciting agenda for you today, but before we get into it, just a little bit of housekeeping. So we will be recording this session and we will post it in Snap for those of you that want to go back and listen to it later. Also, if you have questions, please make sure to enter them in the question box. We will try our best to answer them during the presentation, but in case we don't get to them, we will follow up with an email afterward. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass things off to John. So enjoy, and thank you so much for coming.
Great, thank you, Ashley, for that introduction. Welcome all to our November Town Hall event here as we round out 2021. What a year it has been. I want to first take a moment and thank all of the great clients out there for all of your support over this past year here in 2021. And it's been an amazing year for us at Stearns. A year here that we have done a lot here within the organization to change and to continue to evolve and continue to bring additional tools to all of our great clients out there in wholesale and non-delegated lending. So again, a big thank you to all of you for your loyalty and your partnership over 2021 and beyond. So as we look at kind of what's happening at Stearns, we have two amazing speakers here today and two speakers that are going to really be able to provide us some amazing knowledge on how to succeed, adapt, evolve here in 2022, right? But before we get there, I want to talk about what's quickly happening at Stearns. This call is about how do we grow our business, but we're going to talk quickly about what's happening here at Stearns. So couple of important things. Every month we drop in a technology release, and that release brings new product, new guideline, and new technology opportunities for all of our great customers out there. So a couple things that have enhanced here recently at Stearns. Number one is our accelerator product. We've recently dropped in our permanent resident option within our accelerator product. So any permanent resident is now eligible for accelerator. So a great enhancement there. We did recently release our 2022 conforming loan limits. We now allow for a 30-day lock on those loan limits. Those dropped here within the last couple of weeks. And just recently, we opened up the option for a 30-day lock on our 2022 loan limits. To round out kind of our product suite and giving our brokers choice and options, our USDA manufactured housing product also was released this past weekend. And then we made some key enhancements to our jumbo offering. For those of you that have joined our town halls this year or joined a lot of our training calls this year, you know that Stearns here is changing the landscape in jumbo lending. We are changing the landscape by providing our brokers options, product options, a compelling price point which allows you to beat the banks, technology platform that helps you be more efficient in generating, originating, and closing jumbo loans. So we are here really pushing the industry to say brokers can compete on jumbo. And with some of our recent enhancements, you'll find that our Jade & Garden AUS products, you saw some guideline enhancements drop in November as well. And then we will continue to improve and bring new offerings to the mortgage broker community out there in jumbo land. So make sure if you have questions on jumbo, reach out to your account executive and make sure you ask those to them. So again, as we kind of get into the call, really excited to have both Joe and Andrew here on the call. I'm calling in support today and Andrew Pullman to help here, our Chief Marketing Officer, discuss with Joe really how we can become successful. As I mentioned earlier, the key here for success in being a loan originator is adapt, evolve, and continue to take advantage of those market opportunities. And what we know is the market's going to continue to change. It always has, always will in mortgage. And those most successful originators embrace change and really go after how the market is changing here in the year ahead. And so I know Joe and Andrew have, a good Q&A here set up where we're going to talk through how to be successful in this changing market where we're going to see more business flow into purchase originations, and how can you be successful in this changing landscape. So Andrew Pullman, I will pass the mic over to you for a quick intro.
Fantastic. Thanks, John. As you teed up, right, I spent a lot of time with you and the team, connecting us to our brokers. But what I actually think is even more important are the types of tools or insights we can bring on how our clients can connect with their referral partners and customers. And so I'm I'm thrilled to be chatting with Joe, especially because of his unique background. And I'll toss it over to him in a second to provide more detail. But not very often do we have someone that not only runs a very successful tech company in the mortgage space, serving tens of thousands of originators around the country, but also has a really unique background on being in the business, working with many of you, or working with originators as a real estate agent. And I think that combination is really important for us to be able to share that insight. So, John, as you mentioned a second ago, right, with the rate environment changing, although refi is going down, great cash out opportunities, but most importantly, a much bigger percentage of business coming from purchase, and the need to build great relationships, or in some cases, perhaps rebuild relationships with referral partners from a variety of places, whether or not it's a real estate agent, a financial advisor, you name it. So, Joe, again, thank you for joining us. Perhaps we can start. I think I have 785 questions, which we won't get to during this time, but maybe we start a little bit about your background and your mortgage journey to what brought you here today.
Well, first of all, thank you, Andrew and team. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. As you know, I'm a huge fan of all of the work you guys are doing and your organization is doing in terms of innovation and how you guys are supporting the broker. There's so much opportunity here over the next year. My background, I had the fortunate opportunity of cutting my teeth really running a real estate team for about a dozen years or so. And through the crash, had the chance to sell a couple thousand homes, and in about 2012-ish, started the first version of Total Expert in the basement of our real estate office. And the initial really focus of Total Expert as a technology platform was to enable the partnership and collaboration between realtors and lenders, right? And we lean in, and we're very fortunate to have some great customers to partner with early, and really just became obsessed with watching where things were evolving as an industry, and then how we could bring technology and best practices to originators to just help them continue to get better and evolve year after year. And so over the last 5 to 6 years, we've built a technology platform that supports close to 50,000 originators, and it's just been an unbelievable journey, and very fortunate.
That's right. Well, let's start with maybe a couple things. Since you mentioned those, almost 50,000 originators that you're supporting, my guess is that you see a lot of good behavior and a lot of behavior that perhaps could use a little work. And love to start off with, what are the things that you're seeing in successful originators, whether or not they're using a platform like Total Expert or not? What are the kind of behaviors that you see that leads to great volume, especially on the referral side?
Yeah, that great question, and we have a really unique opportunity to witness the types of things that people are doing to achieve really incredible levels of growth and success. And first of all, right now is one of those times where you have so much evolving in the marketplace. And as an originator, it's one of those times where the very best are looking at everything. They're looking at their systems, they're looking at the way they support their customers, and they look at the way they support their real estate partners with both technology and service. And the very best that we work with and that we see always approach with a combination of technology, but also that human connection, that high level of service and compassion, right? And the technology should always enable you to scale and build process in and make things repeatable. It should never replace the quality of the advice, for example, that an originator can deliver into the marketplace. Particularly brokers, I believe this is really a golden age in lending. And with technology, the data that's available, the way that as a lender, as a broker, a lender in this market, I have the ability to have really a long-term, high-value relationship with the consumer. For example, I can educate them and stay in contact with them about what's important to them at all kind of stages. And then ultimately, I have the ability then as a valued, trusted financial partner with that consumer relationship, then to be able to bring those partnerships and deliver them back into my real estate community. And that focus has changed the game dramatically for some of the very best. So they're harnessing their technology and their approach to the business to really build that lifelong relationship with the customer, and then ultimately deliver that customer relationship in a way back to the other partners that they work with.
Great. Well, let's have you go back down memory lane to when you were sitting in your real estate office. I'll tell you, I'm not sure if I described this to you before, but my very first job in banking, I was a teller outside of Chicago in Oak Brook, Illinois. And the very first time I met a mortgage loan officer was when they would come calling on the branch. And I clearly had my list of those that I was happy to send referrals to, maybe those that treated me well with some snacks from time to time. But there were others that really had were looking for the handout, which was a really tough interaction. So maybe we could go through your whatever the number may be, top 3 things that practitioners, originators that came to your office where you knew they were your go-to, and what were those kinds of behaviors that made them your go-to? And then we can also cover in a second the flip side, which is what are the things or behaviors that kept them off your list, whether or not they perhaps knew it or not.
Yeah, so really straight to the point, it's ultimately in any relationship that you go into in business, you have to approach it as you need to bring value and deliver value into that relationship before you can expect to get something in return. And so that value may not be a customer, although that is, of course, as a former recovering realtor, don't hold that against me too much. Ultimately, realtors love it when they can be referred deals, but it's not the only way to bring value, right? Knowledge, education. You guys have some incredible products in the jumbo space, right? Educating them at how they can close more deals and providing them nuggets of knowledge that not only can help the primary team leader in most real estate offices, but also educating the agents on the teams, right? Which is, as you're working with large amounts of borrowers and buyers, the team leader dynamic in a lot of real estate teams, a lot of originators and lenders think they have to go tackle the team leader and that's the only way to get in. And that may be true some of the time, but I've also seen strategies where if you're providing value into those teams in the form of kind of insights as to what's happening in the market, you're showing from a partnership standpoint, you always want to approach every one of those interactions with, hey, we're here as a partner, and that partnership is win-win, right? Here are the things that we do to help you win your customer back, to help you close more deals. There's lots of things that we see the very best lenders talking through. If I'm talking to a real estate office, one of the most important things for that realtor, beyond obviously new deals, is the quality of the communication that you have throughout the entire process. As an agent, the worst thing I would get annoyed with would be my buyer or seller calling, wondering what the hell's going on with the loan, the lending process. So high quality communication throughout the process, education and knowledge, right, about insights in the market, what they can do, and then that partnership mentality on how you can help support them in growing their business. That's ultimately kind of the secret things that you want to think through, and the things that I always pay close attention to.
You touched on a second ago, knowledge and insights, and I'd be interested to know, how much, again, a lot about the mortgage product now, right? Agents certainly know about the buying process, and the lender knows a lot about the lending process. How much was it important for you or originators to help educate the lender on products and how that customer journey will happen for them. You talked about jumbo in a second, right? Which may be different, right? If a agent isn't accustomed to the types of differences in underwriting guidelines or things like that, or especially having them come along ride to that agent experience. Because as you know, and I think the last time you and I talked, I think had read something about the mortgage process still have these troughs of disillusionment, right? Regardless of how much great technology there is, it's still really painful and it's still really scary sometimes for first-time home buyers. So as an agent, what were your thoughts around really wanting to know about the lending process, what my customer would be facing when they're working with a lender?
Yeah, so ultimately, it's very important to understand from an agent perspective, and if you're on the builder side, the agent side, look, we are all judged at the end of the day in every scenario based on the quality of the experience the consumer has. And agents know this, builders know this, anybody that's in the home buying ecosystem understands that if one of the pieces kind of falls below standards in terms of communication, service level, that impacts your relationship with that customer. So it's always very important for us to understand how the customer was going to be taken care of, for sure. But I think there's a bigger piece to that, Andrew, and that piece is ultimately if you approach from a perspective of understanding every one of your referral partners wants to grow their business, okay? They want to see that business grow. So if I'm thinking through, I'm looking at, you've got your agents that are focusing on the high end, you've got your agents that are focusing on first-time home buyers, and then of course other segments in there. I'm having conversations with them about, for example, Gen Z buyers and saying, what types of content can we be helping you as an agent with, feeding out to your ecosystem database of potential first-time home buyers, your community. What type of content would be helpful? Because as an agent, I want to be able to seem like I'm educating and providing value to my borrowers and potential customers. And if I can partner with a lender to do that, and it makes me look smart, that's a good thing, right? So it was always important for me to understand that, how the customer was going to be taken care of, but more importantly, I wanted to understand how we can work together to really expand what we could do with our business. And I think, there's an opportunity right now. If you're a broker out there, you're an originator out there, right now is an opportunity to really take action and double down on what you're doing with your referral partners in the purchase side of the business, because everything has been so refi focused the last couple of years. And a lot of the relationships that people had their arms around, they neglected them, right? They sort of said, hey, I'm going to take the easy money. So we just think it's a great time, and providing that approach of both growth and then how are you going to take care of my customer is a great way to do that.
Right. There's a couple things that you mentioned just a minute ago. One of them was around, you mentioned this human first approach, which I would love to tell a little more. And you also talked about systematizing your process. And I have a feeling that probably related in some way. So would be interested to hear a little bit more about those, and in the event that they're related, which I imagine they are.
They absolutely are.
Talk to us a little bit more about that, because especially as a tech CEO, it's great to hear you talk about this human first approach, that we're not trying to use tech to avoid interactions. No. We want it to enhance interactions.
Yeah, we ask our team every day, our development organization, our product organization, the products that we're building and delivering into the marketplace. We want to enable a human first approach to lending, right? We believe in the quality of advice that can be provided. We talked a little bit about, I think if anything proves the importance of local market knowledge and advice from a professional and an expert, seeing Zillow sort of transition out of this whole iBuyer thing really enforces the role of that trusted advocate, that trusted financial partner, which is the lender has the ability to fulfill that role. And so when we talk about human first, I want to I want to look at every customer segment that I have, and then I want to understand how am I going in and putting a communication cadence in place that automates my touch points with my customer. And for example, the very best that we work with, and we spend a lot of time on this from a technology side of things, is saying, I want to touch my customer and communicate with them on messaging that's relevant to them. I don't want to do just a standard drip campaign that never ends, right? So I want to do some very basic communication sequencing for my leads, the deals that I have that are in a transaction cycle right now that are in process. And then the most important one is I want to keep my arms around my past customer relationships, right? So I'm going to use technology to look at my data from that past customer database, and then I'm going to surface opportunities as things are happening inside of that database. Maybe their house goes on the market, for example. Okay, well, that's an opportunity. If I'm paying attention to that and I'm using tech to monitor that, that's an opportunity for me to go out and have a conversation with that customer. So I'm using technology to just prioritize and enable the flow of communication. Some of those communication points can be completely automated, and some of them, you just as an originator, as a high producing, high octane top producer, you just want to have it prioritized. Who are the people I need to have conversations with today and why, and have the ability to have that delivered to me every day so I can just knock that out, right? That's how the very best are using technology, is to put what's my ideal sales process from lead to customer for life? What's the data I need access to? And then how do I put an automatic playbook in place for each one of those scenarios? And that's what we call human first lending. That's the process.
A second ago, you talked about number of communications and or number of times you communicate, both before, during, after a particular transaction. During the transaction, my sense is that really critical to make sure that both, and you mentioned it earlier, both the referral partner is in the know and the customer is in the know. Because I would imagine, depending on the client, it gets a little anxiety prone when they don't hear anything, although everybody's working hard in the background getting the loan closed right here at Stearns and within our office. So give me a sense there of silence is not good, right? during the process,
yes. Right? So we always have our philosophy is when you're in this business, really in any business, but when you're in this business and you're dealing with something like financing a major asset purchase, right? Buying your first home, it's highly emotionally charged to begin with, right? So having empathy for that and communicating in a way that is always keeping people informed of what's going on. And sometimes that means, hey, there's nothing that I have to tell you. I just want you to know we're working on it, right? So what happens is ultimately the experience that your customer has with you, and any of the brokers on the call that are in this space understand that the partners they pick have a huge part in this, right? And so if the partners that I work with and their process and whatnot has to align up with how I think about my business, but having communication enabled so that I can reach out and say, hey, here's a delay on something, but I wanted you to know here's what's happening. Really being able to systematize that is important. And the single biggest indicator to how customers feel about a transaction from the research that we've done is it's not about did it close exactly on time or did everything go perfectly. It's the quality of the communication. So you don't even have to be perfect, but if you communicate really well in the channels, text, email, phone, they're gonna stay with you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of communications, I'll date myself, but we probably have a number of originators that'll probably be in the same category. But when I got into the business, there was no social, there were no e-closings, and it's a very different environment now on grappling with all the new technology on how to communicate or how consumers want to communicate. And I'd love it if you could, talk about maybe both ends of those sections. Is where do you see the power of social, and some thoughts on how technology can make that easier, And on the other end of the spectrum, we do a fair amount of work around e-close. But I remember, one of my first roles in mortgage, it was go to every closing, right? And that was a great way to connect with the client. But that's changing a little bit. So again, would love it, broad question, but love to get your, blink reaction around, social and how it's transformed the LO, and maybe we could talk about e-close, good or bad. So.
Yeah, so, well, I think e-close is, it's absolutely going to continue to be even more and more relevant. It makes sense, right, for the consumer. I think in everything we do, both, as a tech partner and you guys as a lender and the originators who are working with the frontline consumers, you have to think about, from the consumer's perspective first, what's easiest, most frictionless for them, because that's going to be the way things are going to go, right? So you have to just really admit that that's going to happen, and then say, well, how do I add value, knowing that, I might not be going to closings in person, or I might not be having as many conversations. How do I add value and be a valued partner through this process? Social is certainly, for a lot of originators out there, it's one element of their playbook, right? It's one element of staying really in front of their customers and prospects. And, the best, what I would say the best kind of quote unquote playbooks that we see is, it's not ad hoc, it's not randomized. They've got a process on a monthly, quarterly basis. There's certain pieces of content. A lot of times it's education first. Those are the types of things they're posting and continuing to keep in front of their customer base. But usually, where social in any of those strategies are most successful is when it's really part of an overall customer journey, right? So where I've got, email communications, I've got text follow-ups, I've got different things I'm doing for both leads, prospects, and past customers. And social is one element of that. And so, we hear a lot about, people talking about social, but I think if you're going to talk about social, you have to talk about it in the context of, how does it fit into the overall communication and engagement strategy that I have, right? Because ultimately, the reason I want social media is I want to engage and add value to my customer. Like, you have to think about it that way, right? Like the guys that are taking pictures of themselves in, front of their Ferraris or whatever, no offense to you, but most likely that's not adding value to your customer, right? They don't care about it. So,
all right, so I shouldn't buy a Ferrari, is what you're saying, at least.
Well, I know you take pictures next to your Ferrari, Andrew. So, maybe don't do that as much or something.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you also bring up, it's interesting. You talk about all the tools that are out there, and I will remember here in a second, but there's a great site that has chronicled marketing technology over the years, and early on it was, it could fit all on one page, but now originators are really getting hit every day with the latest tool, the coolest widget, the best lead capture app, and certainly we're fortunate as a company that you help us sort through some of that, right, in terms of the tools that are integrated with Total Expert. But what advice do you have around what are the kinds of tools that are absolutely critical, right? Because if I replied to every tech email I received on some new tool to connect with our clients, I would never, I'd never stop replying to email. So it's a really kind of dizzying array of, and likely a lot of really good tools, but would love your advice, because you're essentially doing that within your company, is curating the types of tools and which ones integrate with Total Expert, which ones don't. So how should our clients, or how should brokers think through that?
Well, yeah, I spend actually a fair part of my time actually with partners, with integration partners who do, one thing. Maybe it's digital advertising, or maybe it's video email, and saying, okay, who are the partners that we want to integrate into our platform, our engine, that can add value. And what I would tell you is, it's, there's the good and the bad of all of the tech. The good is it enables us to do things and connect with customers at a scale and in a depth that we really couldn't before. because now I have the data and I have the communication tools. If I can execute correctly, I can really build deep relationships with customers. So that's great. The bad part is it's shiny object syndrome every week. If you're a practitioner, okay, and I was a practitioner on the real estate side, and it's 10 times worse today than it was, a dozen years ago. It was every week I had somebody trying to take my money and sign up for tech. And so the first thing you have to remember is there is no magic one bullet from a tech solution that's going to print money, right? It is the orchestration of how you handle your customer journey and your customer relationship. And the orchestration of that has components to it, right? I want to be able to text my customers. I want to be able to email. I need to be able to post to social. I need to deliver education-centric content, right? Right now, if I'm an originator or anybody in the trenches with consumers, I'm using video. I'm doing video email or maybe even video text messaging, right? And I'm using those tools as part of my overall customer journey management to engage with customers. And so anything that you want to add in, you need your basics, okay? And then anything you want to add into that sort of orchestration, that customer journey, you have to say, okay, does it fit in? Does it integrate? And if it doesn't, if it's standalone, then can I make it repeatable? Can I make it scalable? And how does it end up flowing to how my consumer's going to be receiving whatever this thing is, right? If it's an advertisement or if it's a messaging service, how does it orchestrate? So those are the things ultimately that I think I tend to say at a foundational level, I need to have a lead to close playbook, and I need to have a customer for life playbook. And in each one of those playbooks, I have to have intelligence, customer data and intelligence, a lot of which you have in your databases, a lot of which can be, arrived from, partnerships and tech providers. But I want to use that data then to get smart about my customers and then drive my engagement through the channels, email, text, video, email, phone, touch base, those are the types of things. So
Right.
Foundationally, starting with those two journeys before I worry about everything else.
I feel a couple repeat segments coming up here, the customer for life and the pipeline journey that we're going to have a conversation about.
I'm going to drop two things on you guys that I think are the most important ways to grow the business in 2022 that most, even at the very top of the game, and we work with some people that do $1 billion, $2 billion in production, and they are dialed in. In every scenario, going back and looking at where did you have business hit the trash can? Where in your customer journey did business fall and hit the trash can, right? Was it a referral partnership that I didn't stay in touch with? Was it a lead that I got referred to me that took 12 months or 18 months to buy a home because they got hammered in multiples and I forgot to follow up with them, right? I need to fix those gaps. And then on the back end, my past customer database, every customer that you've ever serviced, even if you haven't stayed in touch with them for 3 years, I should be engaging with them in some capacity and trying to stay in front of them so that when it comes time for them to transact, I'm the one they think about, right? So those two things, customer loyalty and retention and improving your conversion from lead to close, are two huge wins that you can do. And it really relates on the purchase side of the business. And the main reason it does is because the purchase cycle used to be, I would be on the way to write an offer and I'd get my pre-approval done, okay? Well, now I might write 12 offers, right? So I have to stay connected to that customer for a much longer period of time.
Great, that's awesome. So I want to pick up on something you mentioned a while ago. Thank you for the plug on our Get Great Jumbo product or products. And one of the things that's certainly a challenge is if I'm an originator and I was not in that space before, my referral partners don't think of me for that product. They're thinking of something else. Not sure if it's a simple or a tough question, but what's your advice on how I get out ahead of that and change the perception perhaps of what kind of originator am I? How do I get out ahead of that to have my referral partners think of me differently, perhaps?
Well, I think, and I don't believe I'm overstating this, but I believe you guys, with what you're doing in jumbo right now, have really leveled the playing field for the originators the brokers that are out there. So if now I can actually compete with a private banking relationship somewhere, I have the product and I have the organization that can deliver on that product to be able to have that customer and serve that customer. So what I think you have to do, if I'm on the other side of this call, I'm understanding the product set that you guys have curated and brought to market around jumbo, and I'm getting smart about that. And then I'm having conversations with my referral partners about why I'm in a position as a practitioner to take care of your special clients that are in those jumbo categories, right? And I mean, look, there's a lot of agents that don't want to work with the big guys. I won't put type of organization, but they don't want to work with the big institutional thing. They want to work with the people they trust if you can deliver on their needs, if you can support their needs with the type of product. So I think you guys have leveled the playing field, and I'm going out to the marketplace and having those conversations about product and about the approach to taking care of that type of customer. Because remember, it's not just, hey, we've got a product, but I'm going to deliver on, I'm going to over communicate, I'm going to make you look good, Mr. Realtor, Mr. Builder or developer, whoever it is that you're servicing. You want to figure out how to make them look good, and having that sort of talk track in your approach when you're speaking with them is important.
Great. So what last couple of things I wanted to cover is you touched on the Zillow iBuyer exit recently, and I think you mentioned, right, that it really underscores the value of local knowledge in the marketplace. So as you look in your crystal ball, or let's say behind the the curtain in your wizard office at Total Expert headquarters, what do you see for the industry and the role the originator plays? And if you want to weave in, right, kind of how that connects to technology, be helpful. But I took away from it that it was almost an endorsement of the traditional model is not broken, right? That there are some really critical elements that human beings can play with our consumers, and that tech doesn't always, replace that.
No, in fact, we believe, and this is, we talked about this at our Accelerate 2 years ago, that the practitioners and lenders that properly combine human touch, human service, right? Human to human service with technology, properly combine those two things, are going to win the market long term, right? There's going to be gimmicks and there's going to be things that come and go. Let's take the human out of the transaction until the market fluctuates a little bit, until interest rates change a little bit, and you need to get back to being able to take an individual customer that is a human, by the way, that has a unique situation, that needs advice, right, about their property, about how to finance that property. The quality of that advice is going to be important without a question. And so if I'm a practitioner, I'm always thinking about how I can be delivering that advice to the customer, positioning myself as a partner, and then using technology just to improve that sort of the repeatability, right, of the process, improve the ability to understand what's happening with my customer, and then just staying ahead of it, right? Technology gives you the ability, if you used to be in the ability to do a couple of loans a month and have a really high touch personal relationship, technology will give you the ability to do 10 times that if you harness it correctly. And so I think the iBuyer sort of scenario proves that local expertise, a trusted partner, is really important. And if I'm an originator, I'm going out and meeting with my realtor partners and I'm leaning in now to, hey, we're here to stay, right? We're here, we're not going anywhere. Your homes are not going to just you're not going to trade in a house, maybe a small segment of the market, but you're not going to trade in a house like you did a car. You know,
Right.
it's harder than it looks.
Right. Well, Joe, I am very grateful for the time that you spent with us and the insight you bring to the table, not only for us as a client, but also to our clients as well in terms of how they can better serve their customers and referral partners. If our viewers don't know, right, if you want to learn more about Total Expert, pretty simple URL to go to, totalexpert.com. Learn more about the great tools that are available and Joe's team. So I'm hoping we can continue to bring more content like this to all of you in the future. Joe, hopefully we can call on you again in the future if there's some new and interesting development. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining. I know you are very busy, and so we're hoping to bring more and more content like this, not only about the great products and services that we provide, but also how to make you more successful as an originator, which is ultimately our goal. So if you have any questions about what we do or this event or other things, please contact your account executive. And we look forward to all of you and many more joining us for our December town halls as well. So thank you for joining us, and have a great week.